Welcome to Behind the Bower, where we bring you inspiring conversations, a fresh look at the arts in our community, and spotlights on the incredible artists, performers, collaborative partners, and organizations that make our creative world thrive. Through this podcast, we aim to celebrate the universal expression of human experience through arts, culture, and community. I'm your host today, Lauren Hood, Program Coordinator for Bower Center for the Arts, and I'm thrilled to introduce a duo whose music beautifully blends heritage, harmony, and heart. Liz and Nilko are the NYC-based Latin Americana duo made up of award-winning singer-songwriter and multi-instrumentalist Liz Chidester and internationally acclaimed classical guitarist and vocalist Nilko Andreas. Their sound is a vibrant fusion of Appalachian and Andean influences, rooted in tradition yet refreshingly contemporary. Through their collaboration, they aim to contribute to the cultural tapestry and healing of the Americas. They've performed at festivals across the U.S., from Folk Alliance International in Kansas City to the Lavender Festival in Charlottesville. And now they're bringing their unique sound to Bower Center on Saturday, May 24th from 6 to 8 p.m. Today, we'll explore their captive journey, the power of cross-cultural music, and what you can expect from the upcoming performance. Good morning, Liz and Nilko.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm so excited to have you guys here.
Oh, we're excited too.
Same here.
Yes. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and jump right into these questions. So let's get to know the origins. Liz, and how did music first find its way into your life? And was there a moment when you just knew, that this was your path?
Well, I have been singing in front of people since I was about 3 years old. I started in the church and also just for family and for friends, anybody who would listen.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was just innate for me. But I was very lucky that I had supportive parents and they were always, pushing me to take voice lessons and piano lessons and to audition for the musicals. And so I had a great support system when it came to like what I wanted to do with music. And I had uncles who taught me how to play guitar. We would often like sit around a fire and learn songs together. And that was how I learned how to, I would say, like sing and write and play folk music.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually from Bedford. I
Yes.
went to high school. Well, I went to high school at Stanton River, and then I went to high school at EC Glass High School. And I used to do shows at Little Town Players.
Oh, awesome.
So Bedford means a great deal to me.
Yes, we're excited to have you join back in the community and do this performance with us. Same question for you, Nilko. How did music first find its way into your life? And then what was your moment that you knew that this was your path?
Thank you. Yeah, well, my father took me to the music conservatory, classical music training in Bogotá, Colombia, where I grew up and where I'm from.
Yeah.
And then I just fell in love with the sounds of the piano and the cello and the choirs. And then I was just one of those kids that, it's normal for parents to expose their kids to music, but sometimes kids decide to stay, and I didn't see anything else in life at that point. I was just immersed. I loved it. I didn't want to go back to normal school. I just wanted to stay, study classical music.
Yeah.
So then I was obsessed with it. And then as years passed, because I must have been like 5, 6, 7 years old when I started on the cello. But the conservatory was located at the National University of the country, where a lot of college students and master's students, people are just doing their careers.
Mm-hmm.
And after class, this was like the 90s. Everybody would go out into the fields to play guitars and folk traditional songs. So after the conservatory training, I would just go out and sit with them and listening to these beautiful songs by incredible songwriters like, let's say, like the Bob Dylans of South America.
Yeah.
They were just playing, and we have big names like Silvio Rodriguez, Victor Jara, and they would write beautiful, beautiful folk song. And I was more interested in the poetry, in the storytelling. It was just very, very beautiful and very appropriate for the times. These people would also write songs related to what's going on around them socially. So this was also a big, big way of understanding my surroundings and the political context of the time. So I saw music as a powerful tool, not only in the classical music world, but also in the folk music. How can you get to the people faster and try to provide great ideas that could contribute to change the world, if you may, was through music. So it was an easy choice. And then I started working professionally when I was very young. So then when I graduated, I didn't have another choice than to keep on going into music. So then I came to New York, and then I studied music at a good conservatory here, and then that's it. Then I met Liz, and that was the beginning and the end of the story.
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. You guys had family support. That's whenever I talk to performers, this question, I kind of switch it up every once in a while, but really just wanting to know the origins and where you got your start and where that passion for music started is what I typically start with all performers, because that is just such an interest of mine. And a lot of them have that support from family where they were encouraging them and they were teaching them, and so that is really really cool, that continues for you guys. So, who are some of your earliest musical inspirations growing up? Either one of you can start with that.
Um, I would say definitely Joni Mitchell.
Mm,
Once like she kind of entered my ears, that really flipped my brain over about what music could be and what kind of poetry could be placed inside of a song. And then it expanded from there. And I kind of got into more like, I would say like indie rockers and things like that, like Regina Spektor and Fiona Apple at some point.
hmm
Um, but yeah, going back to the great singers too. And I have a huge love for Ava Cassidy, her voice, her story, I feel very connected to. So
mm,
I definitely I would say inhabit that in my vocals and in my songwriting. Those are kind of the roots of those trees, right?
yeah, that's awesome. Look, what about
And
you?
yeah, I guess for me, since my it's the composers I heard first when I was started in music as a kid,
Mm,
and definitely the one that sticks and still today is hunts me. It's a hunting force, and it's Johann Sebastian Bach. So
mm,
I've always been inspired since I was a kid. The reason I decided to stay in the conservatory and I picked the cello is because I heard a record of his cello suites played by the great Spanish cellist Pablo Casals.
mm,
So it's always been a constant. Like I fall in love with other people, a lot of people that inspire me, but there's always a point that I go back to Bach.
mm,
Um, and then so it's always been present. And then of course later when I started learning about singing, songwriting, and this songs that tell stories of social and political situations, then I think one of the biggest influence was Silvio Rodriguez, who is a Cuban singer songwriter that
mm,
not only write beautiful poetry and storytelling, but also his guitar playing and composing is superb. He was trained as a classical guitarist, so I was lucky that my introduction to the guitar was through him
yeah,
because it built a solid foundation for what was to come. And then I realized I could play Bach on the guitar, so
yeah.
it was a no brainer. So I became a classical guitarist, and then when I came here, because I've been in New York for over 20 years. So I've
Mm,
been just, of course, absorbing a lot of great things from here too. And Liz have introduced me also to amazing American singer-songwriters
mm,
and from other parts of the world. So right now, I think a person from whom I've learned a lot is Bob Dylan, of course. His poetry and his
mm.
treatment of song is so special, so unique, so easy yet so difficult and deep that it's been definitely a place to go to for research and inspiration.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. So you guys are performing at the Bower as Liz and Nilko. How did you two musically collide?
See, so it's kind of a crazy story because I was living in Chicago for 10 years, and I was actually like uh, teaching at the Old Town School of Folk Music, which is
Mm,
like a 75-year-old community music school that was started by like Pete Seeger and those guys that started like the Newport Folk and Jazz Festival.
mm,
So I was really, immersed in the theater scene there and the music scene, and I ended up getting a job with Pigpen Theater Company, which is a theater company out of New York, that does folk music and puppetry and poetry. And uh, I was cast onto a ship, the Scarlet Lady Virgin, and it was their inaugural voyage. It was in 2020,
mm,
um, and they were trying to do something different with cruise ships. They were actually trying to bring like true art on board and seeing if that would like attracted like a different kind of audience to a ship experience. And so all of the artists on board were just spectacular. Like they were just unique and different and really trying to, I would say, like the acts we were developing were trying to get people to think and feel. And so it was a very unique time together kind of on this vessel. And then the pandemic happened. So we were like on board when this happened.
Yeah.
And so our projects never really got to see the light of day. When we reemerged, because they actually brought a few of us back, it just didn't stick the same way. It was like they really couldn't take that risk of doing something new with what was on board. But Nilko and I were a part of that original team that was all these brilliant artists from New York City and from Chicago and from Europe, and from Japan, like kind of from all over the world that were artists. And that's where we met each other. And actually, like, there was a lot of time to make music as we were sort of waiting to exhale on board. And we were playing songs together. That was like what we started to do, is like he was sharing all his folk songs with me that I had no idea about. There's just, I thought I knew everything about folk music because I had, been teaching at the school for 10 years. And I just hadn't even really thought about South America, which is really ignorant of me, because there's an unbelievable wealth of folk tradition and music that is coming from every country and every little pocket, every nook and cranny of the mountains, like, and he was, showing me all this music. And so I was in turn showing him what I understood, and we just started to sing together. It was a really, I would say, beautiful time. And then I decided to move to New York to be with him and to make music with him too. So
That's an awesome story. Yeah. Love that.
I will have to add to that that it's been the same process to me, in the sense that, growing up in South America, when you think about what American music is, it's really very difficult to go beyond what they want to show you. And what they want to show you is everything that is trending, everything that is selling. So I grow up, seeing that, I don't know, Britney Spears was such a great star of American music. And then when you, and people like that, which is great for a certain period of time, which is good for certain things, but it's really far from the essence of what's really in the hearts of the folk, of the people, of the majority of the country.
Yeah.
So through Liz, I start understanding that there is way more to that. Like, I got to meet people like John Prine, like and many other, like Johnny Mitchell. I go deep into that, into those elements of the folk that you will never really hear on the massive media, on massive media productions. Like, I don't know how many Grammys or Oscars John Prine got, or how many times was he on MTV.
Right.
So it's like, and at the same time is the real voice of the people, and is the music great families sing on Thanksgiving. And so it's not the commercial part that they show to the world. There's way more. And I think that's part of our responsibility, and that's why we decided to form this project, is because I think we want to try to show to other people the experience we had. It's open more doors of knowledge, letting people know that there is way more beyond what we are shown or what we can easily see. So that's also very important, and that's something I definitely have learned in this process because of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's so beautiful, and I 100% agree. So your songwriting, you talked a little bit about that, is rich with emotion and imagery. And so do you think that your lyrics or your melodies usually come first to you?
it definitely, it depends. I feel like if I'm listening, a lot of times I'm listening to another artist and I'm like getting kind of stirred by that, and then words come out of that, which is kind of funny. Or I'm like playing like a chord progression that I really like, and then words and melody start to come, or nonsense words will come out. It definitely starts in different angles, but I do, in my opinion, like with folk music, the lyric is first, like the poetry is first. So the words are first. And I I know that I think something like 20% of people actually know the words to songs.
Yeah.
Like there's something like that like people don't really pay attention to that, but that is like all I pay attention to is like, how is the
Mhm.
music in service to the words?
Yeah.
How are they both bringing each other out? So yeah, that's kind of my take on songwriting.
Mm.
Yeah, it's funny for me. It's a little bit similar, but I don't know. The When I'm writing music, I grew up as a composer in the classical world, so lyrics for me were a little separate. It was like a poetry kind of separate book, right?
Yeah.
So I think that it stays with me. And if I'm writing songs now, I let the melody go first and then develop this musical sound landscapes that eventually become words just because of
Mm.
what they're come. And then that's like the initial process. And then of course those words have to make sense. So I have to kind of find and that is the tricky part for me because I'm kind
Mm.
of new into the literature, poetry writing. So
Mhm.
that's tricky. That's where I am in the process. But yeah, melody leads the words,
Mm.
and then from there I'll find what is it that this music is trying to say,
Yeah.
as opposed to 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 let myself be led by the poetry and then adapt it to sound. It's kind of the same result, but yeah, something that we explore constantly, right?
Yeah.
That's the beauty and the mystery of art.
Mm. Mhm. No, absolutely. I am, when I was reading out that question, I kind of already had my ideas of what each of you was going to say. Like, I felt like Liz was like definitely the poetry, bringing on the poetry first and then adding the melody to that. But Nilko, knowing that you are, the guitarist and being classically trained, like that melody comes first and then the lyrics. So that's super cool. I love that you guys complement
Interesting.
each other in that way. That's awesome. So,
Well, and
oh, go
Nilko
ahead.
is a poet too. I'm
Yeah.
sorry to
No, no,
interrupt
no,
you. No, but
absolutely. Yeah.
like, I mean, Nilko's probably I think Nilko's the best poet I've ever known.
Yeah.
But and it's I'm learning Spanish. I'm not
Mhm.
quite like I'm not quite as far along as I'd like to be. But he writes decimas, like they come spilling out of them. Decima is
Wow.
like a certain form that is mainly in Spanish. And they'll just like strike his brain like lightning. It's actually really beautiful to watch it flow out of him.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I do feel the same, that like we have strengths that complement each other,
Mhm.
and that's what attracted me to Nilko and also intimidated me about Nilko. He he has a lot of gravitas in his presence and his background. He has like a series at Carnegie Hall. He
Mm.
went to Juilliard and Manhattan School of Music, and I went to James Madison for my undergrad and I was classically trained there. But
Mhm.
I feel like he's reawakened that part of my soul and that part of my brain,
Mhm.
um, and kind of pulled those elevated elements out of me as well.
Yeah. That's beautiful. That's awesome. So in the concert, you both are showcasing yourselves as singers, songwriters, and musicians separately. And then you're performing together kind of under the genre of the Latin Americana. Describe what that is, maybe to somebody who doesn't know.
So Americana, the actual genre, was kind of brought about and labeled because a lot of those, sort of niche uh, box genres of blues, rock, jazz,
Mm.
like the American born, I say America, like North American born music, it was starting to sort of blend together and mix together. So they needed to kind of label it as a broader umbrella. But the more that I am understanding over the course of being with Nilko, I didn't realize that. Um, sorry, I'm getting a call. I'm sorry. Uh, I didn't realize that in other countries that people are taught that there are 5 continents,
Mm.
and we are taught that there are 7. That North and South America are taught as one continent, and
Mm.
that concept to me is huge. I feel like if our if we were taught that, we would really think about our relationship with our entire continent very differently.
Mm.
And I feel like in the music, that if we're going to put an umbrella of Americana on something, it needs to cover both continents, because all of this music comes from people that have been taken and transplanted to this continent that are also developed here, people who colonized this continent, you know, like, and when I say this continent, I mean like both Americas. But the music that came out of it is of the people. It's the folk, right? So it needs to, like, I think our minds need to open to a broader perspective, a broader view of what the folk is and who we are taking care of and who we are, you know, the way that our poetry relates to each other. Like, we're all talking about love. We're all talking about jealousy. We're all talking about pain and hardship, about joy. We're talking about like killing people. There's a lot of murder ballads, right? There's, you know, there's all sorts of just like stories that connect us. And that's really like what we're invested in looking into and kind of bringing to our music.
Yeah, I think something very important about what Liz said is the fact that not only in the folk tradition but also in classical music. Like I have a concert that I run in festivals of classical music that is called Back to the Roots, and the intention is to kind of through music, to lead the people to understand and to think and find the similarities in the folk music traditions from all over the world. Like when you hear music that has been inspired in the folk, you hear music from Bartok, right, from Romania and Hungary and all these regions, and then which is like a contemporary composer. But then you hear music from Brazil by Heitor Villa-Lobos, and you find similarities in the music, and you're like, is this so similar? And then if you go to Asia and Japan, and you find these pentatonic scales that are very similar to the music that they were playing in Indonesia and the gamelan or the Peruvian Andes mountains. So there is a commonality in music that goes beyond the cultural modern thinking that we modern men have created. So I think when you hear the lyrics of great singer-songwriters from Milwaukee, Missouri, Montana, Georgia, and then you compare those lyrics with composers from Peru or Bolivia or Mexico, you find that they are speaking about the same things. They speak about pain and happiness and love and despair and social injustice, and everybody is talking about the same thing. It's just that they're doing it in a different language, right? But the common universal language is music. So I think by putting this project together, we are trying to open a door so that people can see that we are not that different deep inside. Like we all as humans share something that is unique and that is common, and we're trying to explore and making people feel that. So when I'm singing a song by John Prine to my Peruvian audience, they like it, and sometimes they don't even need to understand the language to feel that the spirit is the same. So that's kind of our intention, that when somebody hears a song, somebody from Charlottesville, Virginia, or Bedford, when they hear a song in Spanish, they somehow like it, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that. Well, I have no idea what you said, but I felt that I like it." And it's like, "Oh, cool." And maybe that will lead the person to go into Spotify or to find a record by this people by these artists that they never heard before.
Right.
So I'm always really proud of showing great singer-songwriters from America, from North America, from the United States to my Spanish speaking audience, and to try to contribute some way somehow for their expanding the perception of the world.
Yeah. It's like that saying that like music goes beyond language. Like it's just a unifying expression, and no matter what language it's sung in or it's spoken in, you can understand the art and the passion and the heart behind it. It's a really cool thing about
Absolutely.
music. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna wrap up with just a few more questions here. What's next for you guys on your creative horizon after the Bauer Center performance?
So we are going to spend the summer performing in New York, but we also have a music festival at the end of the summer that is in Philadelphia, Music Fest, what we're excited to play. And we're going to be recording this summer as well. I think that we've been, performing live a lot and kind of experimenting with our live music, but we need to set everything a record. So that is the project that we're working on in the summertime.
Yeah, that's super exciting. Definitely have to check that one out. And just one final question for our dreamers and our creatives listening. What is one piece of advice you'd give to someone wanting to pursue their passion but feeling stuck?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, quickly. I don't know. I think I can, you know, like who am I to give advice? But what I could do is to talk about my experience,
Mm-hmm.
and I think something that definitely helped me, and it was a humongous help, was always looking outside of the box, always opening doors that you never thought you could. Like there's a lot of misconception and taboos about who we are, and people have inflicted a certain type of image and upon ourselves about ourselves, and
Mm-hmm.
told us what is it that we are supposed to do, or where is it that we can fit or not. And I think that's a very, very, very bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are no limitations for any human, in spite of its race or orientation in life, or we feed everywhere all the time. And if we have that as a motto,
Mm-hmm.
then that will allow us to feel freer, opening doors that we thought were impossible for us.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is, for example, if you are an American singer, a North American singer that were born in rural Virginia, and then one day you feel like you want to be the leader singer of an incredible mariachi band, Mexican band, and wear a hat, then you should understand that you are more than welcome, and that you can do it to 100%. And the
Mm-hmm.
and the most people that are going to celebrate that are the Mexicans, and
Mm-hmm.
they are very happy. Liz is going to tell you about it in a second. But I think looking for other parts of the world, looking for other cultures, opening other doors that you thought you were never able to do,
Mm-hmm.
that is going to take you out take you out of the place where you are being stuck. I think as a young human, you must be able and to learn. And once you start reading, it's like opening a new book, right? You open a new book, and that book is going to lead you into something that you've never thought before, and that in itself is going to make you think differently. And then there's no more stuck. You're not stuck anymore. You're not going to
Mm-hmm.
be standing there waiting for nothing and getting depressed, because you already have another reasons to think and something else to look up for. And then I think that's very important.
Yeah.
Can you explain this through my React experience? Also, that's why we're going to Spain at the end of the summer, because we're trying to also expand, our knowledge of the world, and we're trying to get some concerts over there. I'm
Yeah.
really looking forward for that, because we can show Latin American and North American music in Europe, and I'm really excited.
Yeah. That's super encouraging.
Totally. Um, well, I know we're wrapping up, but yeah, I performed with the Real.
Mariachi Real.
I'm so sorry, the Mariachi Real. And I'm sorry, my brain's a little muddy right now. I performed with them last weekend, and I didn't think that I could do that.
Yeah.
I didn't think that I had onus or permission, and I'm always thinking about, like, am I being respectful to a culture if I'm you know participating in that event, or participating in the music making.
Yeah.
And I try to be, maybe I'm being too careful, or maybe I'm feeling like I, that I'm not allowed to participate. But in my experience in the past few years, I've learned that you must not have any like limitations on what um, you are exploring,
Mm-hmm.
and that creativity is not American Idol or The Voice or anything on the internet. It's not it. Everyone should participate in creation, because that is
Mm-hmm.
what we were put here on this earth to do. And the more that you are going inward and finding what is deep inside of you, and then just expressing it, you are healing yourself. And then people see that, and they're inspired, and that is what starts to collect and create that, I would say, bubble of influence that might be somebody famous. But, like, it's not about how many likes you're getting online. It's
Mm-hmm.
just about that. It's about the inner to outer experience, that it's about you and the healing of yourself.
Yeah.
And I also want to add the Mariachi Real de Mexico is the number one mariachi in the United States. It's a
Oh, wow.
humongous band, and it's crazy. And Liz was invited, and she did an incredible job. The whole auditorium, it was a huge stage. They were happy, clapping, screaming for her, and she was already invited to do it again. So it's like, wow,
Oh,
invited by the Mexicans, and the Mexican government is like, so it's, this is something that I've always been an advocate for. If you want a piece of advice to somebody that's stuck, there's no limits. Anything you want, anything you think, even, and if you don't have anything to think or to look forward to, because that sometimes happens, we get stuck. Then open a new book. Open
mm.
let a friend tell you, go to a different church, go to a different river, take a bus, take a flight, or you know what? Get a passport for starters. And then, yeah, the world is huge. And we are allowed to everything.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, that's so great. Well, thank you so much, you guys. But that brings us to the end of today's episode of Behind the Bower. A huge thank you to Liz and Nilko for sharing their time, their stories, and artistry with us. It's been such a joy to get a peek behind the curtain of y'all's creative world.
Thank you so much for having us, and we're excited to be with you all next weekend.
Yes, absolutely. And here's your invitation to be a part of that magic. Liz and Nilko will be performing live at Bauer Center for the Arts on Saturday, May 24th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's going to be an unforgettable evening of powerful vocals, heartfelt storytelling, and beautifully crafted songs in an intimate setting you won't find anywhere else. So grab your tickets now at bowercenter.org. They're $20 in advance, $25 at the door. So save a few bucks and lock in your spot early. Bring a friend, make it a date night, or just treat yourself to an inspiring night out. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, keep supporting the arts, stay curious, and keep creating. I'm Lauren Hood, and this has been Behind the Bower. See you next time.